place if you only spend some time and look. Now, can you imagine the diversity of animals that are out there? Not only the big ones, but the small ones. If you see what James has just seen in one bush to what we're seeing here in this vast, endless landscape. We have this topee and a few topee in the background, some waterbuck in the clearing, and the endless amounts of insects that are in between us and them. If you think about James's one small little bush. We stopped here to have a look. There was a waterbuck having some interesting behavior, but he's since moved off. But now we've got the topee, and there's some waterbuck there in the background. Quite easy to remember. Dufasa, as you would hear in The Lion King. Mufasa. Love the way they say that. We have the Dufasa waterbuck that are loving the marsh just like the elephants are. And some buffalo in the background. The waterbuck are very bulk feeders, and they're never much further than a couple of kilometers, a mile or so from water. And we are not far from the Mara River. There in the background, the tall trees lines the Mara River. Dale wants to know where oxpeckers nest when they're not pecking at other animals. Well, they're nested in cavities in trees, very similar to starlings, woodpeckers, barbets. Quite often it's the barbets and the woodpeckers that create the holes, or there might be some natural cavities formed, but the oxpeckers actually line their nest hole with the fur of animals that they take or borrow. I don't think they ask very nicely, but they accumulate it just like they do the ticks. They'll take that and put that in the cavities of trees. And there at the background you can see the multitudes of trees, and then we have a piggy. So folks, the animals are looking very relaxed this afternoon. Taylor had the Olololo Pride towards Chitwa Airport this morning. They've since moved from there, not too sure where. And the Marsh Pride, this is their territory, but I don't think they're anywhere to be seen, because these animals this afternoon are extremely chilled and relaxed. I think they've been watching Safari Live as well, and they know where the lions are. Even the warthog are quite relaxed, and they seem to form the major diet of this marsh pride. Isn't he a beauty? Is it a he? I think it is a she. Yes, that is a young she moving through the long grass. Quite often animals will spook a bit when they see a warthog, because just the body posturing and the size of them often looks like that of a leopard or lion stalking through the grass. So it's not uncommon to see animals stare at them momentarily. You see it quite often with giraffe. He's coming to join some friends, feeding. They also thoroughly enjoy this very green, marshy area. Beautiful grazing. They're all enjoying it before the holiday makers come in a few months, making the most of it. Good time of year for all the breeding to happen. You are a beautiful pig, are you not? Robert wants to know if there's a limit to the amount of tourists coming in and out. And while I answer that, look at that vista. Is there a limit to how many tour vehicles can come in and out? Well, they're all permitted. Everybody has to pay to come in, and a lot of them are on actual safari tours, and those tours would be operators, they'd be regulated. But when it comes to how many private vehicles can come in, I wouldn't know my own experience. So the Kruger Park doesn't have a limit. As long as you've paid the permit and you obey the certain guidelines and rules, then everything is fine. But there's definitely times that you're allowed to be in the park, gate opening times, and we're going to be heading back after gate opening. So we brought a ranger with us this evening who's looking after us if need be. And so definitely they do legislate or regulate that, but there is making money. Every single person coming to the park is paying a fee and a levy, and that goes to conservation. So I think it's a good thing, as long as you can manage that and make sure people aren't misbehaving and getting out the car and driving when they shouldn't drive. That is where it becomes tricky. But the regulation of people coming in and out, I don't think there should be a limit. Obviously, if you get 10 million in cars, there'll be a problem, but I don't think that's going to happen. Most of the people come here with registered tourism operators or stay at lodges. Well, folks, that is just, look at that. I just wanted one more view of that before we move on towards the forest. We heard what sounded like a Ross's Turako coming from the forest there. I'd love to see one. I heard one the other day, so we're going to make our way towards the forest line, see if we can be lucky. And, oh, who knows? I think we might be. Sorry, Arch, thank you very much. Beautiful vistas. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of this place. It's just those endless settings. Doesn't feel like any rain, but you never know. Archie, what do you think? There's a few drops coming now. I think I might have jinxed this earlier when I said it's not going to rain. I know everything. So we continue driving, saying hello to the topi. We're going to go back to Noel, who I believe is also driving down in Djuma.
I am also driving. We're busy looking for a breeding herd of elephants. Our male elephant that we had earlier ran into the bushes and chased another male elephant. And then they got stuck in that block there, so we moved on. So we're just maneuvering around and checking for more birds as well. But a big wind has picked up, so a lot of our bird life, every time we stop and try and get it on camera, it blows away and flies off. So I think we're going to head back to some more water holes and see about a breeding herd of elephants, or whatever happens to be along the way. Alright, so the comment is, I wonder how long it would take me to be in the greater Kruger area, like where we are now, to be able to say we've seen it all. So I have been guiding, I'm in my 11th year this year, and I cannot say I've seen it all. I think James is pushing up to about 20 years, maybe 18 years, and he also sees new things every day, myself as well. So I don't think it's possible to say you've seen it all. I think that nature is so amazing that there's no way you can say that you've seen it all. Especially when it comes to the insect world that James was showing you. That flower mantid that we get every now and then on screen. The first time I saw a flower mantid ever was probably about 4 months ago. Scott Dyson showed it to me. So it comes. And remember, every guide has different specialties and places that they focus more on because it draws them. And so then when you meet other guides who have a different sphere that like something different, then you get drawn into there and you learn something new. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, I see behavior and different aspects every single day that are either new to me or I've only read about. And you know, that's after a decade of guiding. So yeah, I do not think that you in one time you could say that you've seen it all. And then you might have seen it all in, or most of it in one tiny little spot, but the minute that you move away from that tiny spot, it's going to start all over again. And that's one of the reasons why we love our jobs and what we do. Most of us did not like school, or had ADD at school, or just need constant flow of information and new things to keep us interested. And guiding definitely does that. So yeah, no, you're never gonna see it all. And that's the beautiful thing of life. Constantly learning, constantly seeing, constantly exploring new aspects. Alright. So, update with lions. The Nkuhumas are in Manuleti, which is very far from here. Torchwood Pride is in Biffleshoek, which is unfortunately also not anywhere where we can head to. I found some tracks of what I think are the Styx lions. Styx Pride going north over Gowrie May, but also Torchwood, but I'm not 100% on that. They're a little bit older, and so I don't really have an update there. Our lions have not been kind to us the past week. They've all fled the coop, as it were, but it happens. We would like to know if we get caracal. We do get caracal. A caracal, for those of you that don't know what a caracal is, let me stop my roving safari and show you. We don't get to see caracals often. They are quite elusive and also tend to come out in the darker periods. I even had a bookmark there. Alright, so this one on the right hand side is a caracal, known as a rooikat, a red cat in Afrikaans. beautiful there. And then here as well, down at the bottom, you can see those tufts on the ears. In a decade of guiding with guests, I've seen caracal 4 times, if that puts that in perspective. Then over here is another one of our smaller cats, the serval. A serval I've seen with guests maybe about 12 times in just over a decade. And that just has to do with where I've been guiding. Both are amazing. Both are extremely adept predators. I think some of the best footage I've ever seen in a documentary was when Attenborough came out with his second Life of, and they did Life of Predators. I'm pretty sure it was this one. And there's that beautiful footage of the caracal jumping up and catching the guinea fowl. It was absolutely stunning. I mean, they can jump, I believe, up to about 2 meters, if I can remember correctly. Ooh, Stivovo has one of my favorite birds. And so we're going to head on up to him, to the Masai Mara, so that my friend can tell you all about them. So let's go there and you can check it out.
Thanks very much, Noel. Yes, we have got the southern ground hornbill. We've got 2 individuals there, an adult and a youngster. There it is. The youngster's becoming an adult. You can, let's have a look at the face. The face has gone a little bit pink. The face is a little bit white before. When they are juveniles, their face, there we go, the one on the right. When they're juveniles, their face has got sort of a whitish grey colour to it, and this one has got a slight pinkish tinge to it, which means it's probably becoming mature soon, and it's got something in its mouth. Does it? Or is that just the beak? No, that's just the beak. The most beautiful eyelashes of any bird, the southern ground hornbill. We were talking before about the importance of trees for nesting habitats for oxpeckers and the like, and hornbills, southern ground hornbills, just like the smaller hornbills that we know, all rely on tree cavities for their breeding. So when we use the word habitat's not just about food resources and water, it's also where they can breed. So what we see behind them in that woodland area, very, very important for a number of bird species here to breed and proliferate. And Noelle was saying that she's seen caracal, what did she say, 4 times? I was thinking about that. I think I've counted caracal only 6 times in my life, which is not a lot. They are a very shy and elusive animal. I'm sure we've passed many more than we've actually seen. But it's always exciting when you see them. Very, very exciting. I've seen quite a few tracks, but only 6 times in my life, which I don't think is a lot when you consider how many leopards and lions I've seen. Definitely more than 10. So it's getting to that time of evening when the ground hornbills, which spend most of their time, as the name says, on the ground feeding, are going to find their roost and starting to preen away from the nest, as you would do to keep the parasites and dirty bits away from where you sleep, which makes a lot of sense. A little bit of a tickle under the armpit or on the arm there. It looks like a male. It lacks that sort of blue throat patch just under the beak. It's difficult to see when it's not looking at you. But once again, I'm surprised. Again, looking at the ground hornbill, I'm seeing an individual here, or the other 2 times I've seen individuals, and now there's just 2. So I find that quite strange. I don't know, maybe there's something going on with the dynamics of hornbills out here. In South Africa, you always see them in groups of 3 or 5. That's my experience anyway. Marvelous. Well, we are making our way down. We're going to pop our nose into the Mara River, have a little look and see if we can see a hippo or 2. And we're going to leave these ground hornbills on the ground and go down to Mr. James Henry, who I believe has something to eat.
No, you don't want to be eating this one, and Stivovo, you don't want to be dipping your nose in the river either. I was just sort of waiting to talk to you about this thing here, but then I found myself rather comfortable and thought I might just have a small snooze. Don't worry, you don't have to watch me sleep. Okay, what this is, and we've talked about it before, is a poison apple, but it's a particularly poor example of a poison apple, in that, well, it's rather shriveled, and possibly one of the last ones of the season. And these annual plants, here's a better example of the actual plant. This is the poison apple plant over here, Solanum panduriforme. The thing about it is that I think there are annuals definitely, and in drought years they're going to struggle, and in dry years they're going to struggle and not produce nearly as many fruits as they would have otherwise. They are closely related to the aubergine and the tomato and the pepper, of course, and I mean the sort of, is there a collective term for those peppers? The green, red and yellow peppers that you get? They're part of the deadly nightshade family. I think that the peppers are part of the deadly nightshade family. Anyway, what it means is that if you are a depressive, for example, you should probably avoid eating them, because depressives apparently struggle with foods made of the deadly nightshade. Isn't that interesting? This one itself it's called a poison apple, but as far as I'm aware, it won't kill you. And in fact, I know people who will squeeze it into milk and to sort of give the milk some flavour and curdle it slightly. So I don't think they're deathly. But apparently, if you are prone to feeling depressed and a bit sad about things around you, tomatoes, aubergines, poison apples and peppers should be avoided. Take it from me. Sensible? I've just noticed your shorts, which are a piece of magnificence, the likes of which haute couture in Paris is sorely missing. They are green, everybody, with sort of bands at the bottom, floral bands. They are quite something. I've never seen anything quite like them. I'm sorry to have become distracted like that, but really, they are very special. Okay. Mike, you say, is there anything in nature I would rather not see? It depends at what quarters, you know. It depends how close I need to be. And I need to pick Senzo up. Apparently he's... There we go. It was very smoothly done. Mike, look, I wouldn't like to see, if I was poking around in here, for example, I wouldn't like to see a black mamba come rearing out at me. That would be very unpleasant. But I'd love to see a black mamba at a safe distance. So really it does depend on the distance that you are from a creature. But there's nothing in nature I can think of that I don't want to see. There are many, many things in nature that I'd like to see at a safe distance. But no, nothing that I can think of that I don't really want to see. I tell you what I don't like seeing hugely, they don't entertain me much, are ticks. I've tried to like them. They have a right to life the same as anything else does. But I find them offensive. I find the way they move, their sort of crawly skin, the fat grey ones, once they've sucked blood, I find them fairly offensive. Nicola's saying flies. She would like never to see a fly again. Yeah, I find a tick more offensive than a fly. A mosquito, which of course is a fly, is probably close to the tick. But otherwise, no. Many things I would like to see. Primates in the wild are a particular sort of fascination for me in my latter years, or in these years. And so I do very much want to go to the areas where you see lots of primates, especially the great apes. Kristen, you're saying pepper ticks obviously not much of a concern because I was lying on the ground. They haven't been bad this year on account of the lack of rain, but you know, they don't really bug me that much. I mean, in a very wet year, yes, you lie in bed at night and scratch yourself to pieces, but they don't last very long. And once you're used to the parasites that they carry and inject into you, you don't really feel much from them. So I don't worry about them too much. Now, I'm just examining here the ants on acacia. No, not acacia anymore, sorry. On Vachellia gerardii, the red thorn. And you will always find ants on Vachellia trees, or these thorn trees, because they often have little glands that secrete a sweet nectar that the ants are able to feed on. And the nectar is normally in the gap. Oh, these are fantastic ants. It's normally in the sort of node between the leaf and the stem. These are cock-tailed ants. Can you see them? Senzo, come, bring the camera here. He's now standing with it like it's some kind of shoulder exercising device. Can you see it's cocked its tail? A cocked-tailed ant? And you won't believe what else I found once you've seen the cocktailed ant. Have you seen it, Senzo? You didn't see it? Right, what we have here is a minute grasshopper. Senzo, you're going to have to come this side. You'll never see it from that side.
I can see.
You can see it. Alright, apparently we're not going to wait and see this little chap. We're going to go across to Noel, who is going to begin us on our school drive.
Welcome, Friendship, Westlake, and Lanesville schools. We hope that you all are going to enjoy your show with us. On screen right now, we have the sneaky little hiding water buck. It is a type of antelope species. You might, in some of the places where you're living, have deer. Deer and antelope were related at one point, but they've obviously moved away from each other. There's also some impala that are in the background there. I am Noelle, and on camera I have Seb. Hello, Sebastian.
Hello, everyone.
He's saying hello. So we have many different species of mammal out here and many different species of animal. Something that we see often are antelope species like the water buck and then the impala that were just behind them. What I want to do is I just want to come around the corner just so that we can possibly see them a little bit better. It's very windy today, and when it's very windy, it takes away an antelope species' ability to hear and to smell properly. And they get very nervous when that happens because they don't trust their eyesight like we do. They use their hearing and their smell often. We also have some cheeky, sneaky baboons that are going to be just here as well. So let's see if we can get everybody in frame. Ooh, sorry. And of course they saw the vehicle there. You just see the bums running away. Let me just try one more spot for you. Now, these baboons are part of the Gowrie gang. My very good friend Graham, when he worked at Djuma, which is the lodge just here, he spent a lot of time with this Gowrie gang to the point where they sort of accepted him as one of their own. And he can actually still do a lot of the vocalizations with the baboons that mean many different things. Now, I don't speak baboon. He is a very good mimic, and he is very good at being able to use the tones that he learned for whatever scenario happened to come into play. So a troop of baboons, also known as an oligarchy of baboons. Gianna, that is an excellent question. You want to know how long does it take for animals to fully learn muscle memory? So mammals like this are very similar to mammals like us, where you have to repeatedly do something day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year to learn how to properly fend for yourself and work within your habitat. For each mammal species, it's going to be different. I think for something like a baboon, it'll be a few years. For something like a little leopard cub, it's going to take a few years as well. Impala and waterbuck, impala is what you can see right now, maybe a little bit less time. Also probably depends on how long that animal, or that mammal I should say rather, lives for. Great question. So these are impala. Like the waterbuck, they also have horns. So we chatted about impala and waterbuck being somewhat similar to deer. So deer have antlers that grow once a season and then shed. Antelope species have horns that grow once in a lifetime, and if they break off, that's it. They don't grow again. So this will be a male impala. Now, some antelope species like buffalo and wildebeest, both males and females have horns because it helps them function within their habitat, within their niche. We actually have some wildebeest that are just here at our 11 o'clock. Aaron, the Gowrie gang is the name of that troop of baboons. Part of the property that we're on now is known as Gowrie. And so that's where they got their name. And it's not every troop of baboons that has a specific name. It's just that troop. And they're cheeky, sneaky. They try and break into our houses. They know how to open up the sliding doors to get in. They steal our food. They're very cheeky. So here on screen we have another antelope species known as a wildebeest or a gnu. Also in a herd, most species that are eaten by predators, so that would be impala, waterbuck, and wildebeest, the ones that we've seen now, of course others will be eaten as well, tend to live in big herd structures to protect themselves. Ali, very good question. They use their horns, the males in any of the species we've seen so far will use their horns to fight other males, to keep them away from ladies. It's all about getting girls. It's all about getting girls and then making babies. The females with the wildebeest that have horns just like the males, there's a few reasons for that. One is it helps them defend their youngsters. The other reason has to do with because of the type of herd structure that they have, the type of movements that they have. If the males were the only ones that had horns with the wildebeest, the testosterone levels between the males would be so high that they wouldn't be able to function properly. So basically they would just be aggressive all the time. So the females also have horns so that when they're moving around in places like Kenya, where Steve is, and I'm sure we'll go to Steve at some point in Kenya, where they migrate long distances, it helps keep the aggression levels down. Whereas with impala, they don't migrate anywhere, and our wildebeest on Djuma don't migrate, but it's from the background there. Impalas tend to be in sort of one general area. They need lots of water all the time. Now, my friend Steve, who's up in Kenya, which is about 1,600 miles northeast from us, has a very large mammal he would like to show you.
Welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, to the Masai Mara, to the Mara Triangle, all the way up in Kenya. We are currently sitting with one elephant bull, and there are a few more about to join him from the drainage line. Let's see what happens here. A little bit of behavior happening on the left. These two elephant bulls are just crossing the drainage line there. And let's see what happens when they meet their friend on the other side. Look at how he's going up and look how he's going down. They're not able to really bend their legs as well as we are elephants. So they really do struggle to climb. Hello, Raina. You want to know why do baby elephants stay under their mother? One of the reasons is to feel safe. The other reason is she's a huge portable or mobile shade machine. So she brings shade with her wherever she goes, and the babies will heat up a lot quicker than the females. I'm going to introduce myself in a moment, but these elephants are having so much fun, I thought we should go to them first. Look at that, eh? He's a little bit cheeky, isn't he? Well, my older brother would do something like that, you know. He'd go through the drainage first, and then when I try to come up the other side, he'll keep me from getting up. It was a game we used to play in primary school. All the boys used to try and get onto this little box, and the object was to throw the other guys off. That seems to be what these boys are doing. And so, welcome to the Masai Mara Triangle. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by Archie on camera. And please send through your questions with your teacher. And we are in the Mara Triangle with a huge, huge herd of elephants. We're just going to let Archie pan across the landscape. There are, I counted earlier, well, I stopped counting at 120. And the elephants are absolutely loving life. So there's no sun at this time of day. So to answer your question again, babies find it quite comfortable being close to mum. And elephant behavior, there's a lot of touching, lots and lots of touching, just like with us. When we're a child, a lot of babies actually sleep more comfortably when they're touching their mommy or their daddy. And elephants feel the same. They feel being very close to mom, being very close to, well, not dad in the case of elephants. Dad doesn't play much of a role, but they'll stay with their parents, with their mother, their whole life if they're a girl. If they're a boy, 16 or so, they get pushed away. Wow. Emily, in the Masai Mara, you want to know how many species are living here? Sure. Just from the mammal species, there's probably about 80. But I'm just guessing that off the top of my head now. When it comes to species in total, there's insects and birds. The numbers just go on and on and on. I think there's about 10,000 just in Africa alone, mammal species. So we're not going to talk about the birds as well, but there are lots and lots. There's so much going on out here. And there's a little guy. Look at that little one. You see, he's not underneath mum because there's no threat at the moment. But if anything was to threaten that youngster, immediately she would run underneath mum's tummy or in between the group of females for protection. It's marvellous being out here. We've been with these ellies. We were on the other side of this very boggy marsh area before. and we've decided to come to the other side to show you how special these really big African elephants are. But from the plains of the Masai Mara, we're going to be going all the way down south, 1,600 miles, to my good friend James, who I believe has got something very small to show you.
We have got something very small. Hello everybody, I hope you're enjoying your day at school. Quite nice for you to come on safari rather than do anything serious like mathematics or geography, anything like that. Here we are on safari looking at termites. Now I know you've been looking at very big elephants with Steve, but here we've got some termites, and they're a different kind of termites, I think probably from the ones you're used to at home. Those ones will eat your furniture, of course, but these chaps here are harvester termites, and here's one that I'm pointing at now, just crossing our little pathway, carrying a piece of grass, and he's taking it to his home over here. Now these termites don't build mounds, they are called harvester termites, and they just live under the ground. And what's very interesting about them compared with any of the termites that we get in this part of the world is that they are black. Can you see that? And that means that they've got melanin in them, when that means that they are able to cope with being in the sun. Most termites out here cannot be in the sun, so they operate purely at night. They're a little bit like vampires, I suppose you could say. They operate only in the night time when the sun's gone down. Here's another one dragging its grass to the hole, and this one gave up, the one we were first watching. Let's just watch and see if this one makes it all the way back. Very, very strong to be able to carry something so big when you're so small. See, they've stopped moving now. Why have they stopped moving? Come on. Here we go. That's it. Ah, now Jenna, you're wondering if there are ladybirds or ladybugs in Africa. Yes, there are many different kinds of ladybugs. Some of them are what we call indigenous, in other words, they're from Africa, but some of them have been imported or brought in from other parts of the world, and that's often not a good thing. So the ones that are imported often will be pests on crops. Well, Isaac, you ask a very good question. Here's a termite carrying a piece of, what is it? It looks like a piece of grass. I would say about 3 times its own mass. So 3 times its weight at least. There are some ant species that will carry up to 20 times their mass. In fact, probably some that will carry up to 100 times their mass. So I think ants are stronger than termites. Termites are not related to ants. They're much more closely related to cockroaches than they are to ants. But I think you'll find that ants are the tougher ones. Now that's the termite nest. Over here, in the middle of the road, we've got an ant's nest. And these ants seem to be harvesting not quite the same dry grass that the termites are going for. They look like they're looking for seeds. So they've gathered a whole lot of grass seeds here from a plant called Eragrostis superba, or the saw-toothed love grass. Here's what it looks like. Here is the saw-toothed love grass over here. And they've gathered all the seeds and they've put them in a little pile. And I suspect what they're doing is taking the husk off. That's the kind of non-nutritious covering on the seed, and they're probably taking the seeds down into their little hole, which is underneath the ground there. And you see that there. Jonah, you're wondering how fast termites run. Well, not as fast as you can, Jonah. Even if you're walking, they won't be able to keep up with you. So really not very fast at all. I'd say they probably go less than half a mile an hour. Yeah, about half a mile an hour. I'd say that's probably the top speed of a termite. It's not going to be winning any 100-meter races anytime soon against any of the other animals out here. Okay, let's carry on. We are hopefully going to find you something like an elephant on foot, because it's really nice to be out on foot in the wild. We don't want to threaten ourselves at all. But while we look for that, let's go back to the Masai Mara, where my friend Steve is sitting in the near darkness, because of course they are a little bit further east from us, so they get a bit darker a bit earlier.
Thank you, James. Your termites, I'm sure, are amazing. Isn't it incredible we're able to see those little guys with such a beautiful lens? And from the little guys to the big guys, we are back with the elephants. And we had a little bit of an interaction here with the female. He's a young bull's here, but he's doing a little bit of dominance display there. Sometimes they like to climb up on each other to practice what will be happening later on in the years when they're a little bit older. But if you go to the left there, Arch, to that female, the female there, she's got a very small calf, but not that small, and she's quite pregnant herself. You can see her tummy is very, very big. They have a gestation period, or pregnant, for about 22 months. Ella wants to know what time elephants start, or what age they start growing their tusks. They start at 6 months or so, they start getting a little milk tusk through, but then from 2 years you start really seeing a little bit of a bulge coming through, and then they grow throughout their life, just like our teeth, except the elephant's teeth keep growing and growing and growing. And there you see that little baby. You missed it just before, but we were in the road and we turned around, and I think we were between her and those other young bulls, and she got a little bit upset with us, and she gave us all sorts of nasty behavior. Did I get scared? Alina, did I get scared the first time I saw an elephant? I don't think I did. The person I saw it with was my mother, and she was quite relaxed. But the first time I saw one really, really close, yes, I did get scared. And the first time on foot, definitely you're always going to get scared. But if you trust the people that you're with and they know what they're doing, these are very peaceful animals. And we just have to respect them in their space. And now I have lots of information about elephants and their behavior. And it's important to, feel the fear if you want to, but don't let it control you, Just enjoy these elephants. They don't eat meat. They're only going to hurt you if you cause them any damage or harm. So that's important to remember. So we're going to go all the way back down south again as our elephants march into the glorious sunset in Kenya to Noel, who has got a flying, beautiful bird.
Do indeed. I have a really large bird of prey, a large eagle. It's a pale morph of a Marshall's eagle. So by pale morph, I mean sometimes that they're lighter in color and sometimes they're darker in color and sometimes they're a little bit tawny or rufous. This is the pale morph, and they are incredible. These eagles can eat those baboons we saw, a small baboon. They can take down a small baboon as well as vervet monkeys. Now where it's standing, it actually looks like it might have something underneath its claws there. Their talons are very sharp and very good at grabbing up their prey. And usually when they perch a little bit higher up. Now, he most likely will sleep in this tree or a tree close to here for the evening, because they don't fly around at night. What else will he eat? He'll eat birds like francolins, which is sort of like a partridge. They eat snakes sometimes and lizards, smaller birds. Oop, he's gone to the toilet. Usually when birds do that, it means they're about to fly. And then there he goes. Look, it's in his foot. Did you see that there? As he flies off, he had whatever he was eating in his claws. It looked like a small bird or maybe a rodent. I'm going to see if we can find him again to see if we can see what was in there. That was very, very, very cool. Let's go on the chase. It's windy. I gotta hold my hat. Sorry, Nikki, say again? Brooke, you were asking what do they eat? So yeah, Brooke, vervet monkeys, small baboons, small birds like guinea fowl and francolins, lizards that they'll eat, sometimes snakes. They eat quite a bit. Now we just have to find where this bird went. And it's a Marshall's eagle is not an eagle that we see all the time. And they are so beautiful and strong. I have a friend who grew up in the greater Kruger National Park, just a little bit east from where we are. And he was telling me when he was a small kid, his mom used to yell at him when he was going where I can see it. It's just in front. I'm going to try, do you see that little gap there, Seb? Do you think we can try through there? So he's directly at 12 o'clock through those branches in that larger tree. I just don't want to drive too close right now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, because I don't want to chase him away. So I know that there's a bit of a branch in the way. Seb, what if I angle the car a little bit more to the right? We're just trying to see here. There we go. Maybe there? There, you can see him eating. Anyway, so his mom used to say, don't go wander outside at certain times because the martial eagles might come and grab you. It's like an old wives' tale. Not that they really grab children. So with the blowing branches, it's a little bit harder to see, but you can see his claws definitely stepping on top of his prey and then going down and picking up bits and pieces. I just want to go and sort of break those branches off, but I don't want to scare him away. This is really incredible, everybody. So it's not just predators like lion and leopards that make kills. We have these predatory birds as well. And martial eagles like fresh meat. Luke, good question. You want to know how can the marshal get the bigger prey? Luke, it has really strong claws. So it soars in the air. When the sun's out, it bakes the ground and then hot air rises off the ground in sort of a funnel shape. So they soar on those funnels so they don't have to flap too much. And then when he spies something, he dives down with his talons out and grabs it. And the talons have these huge claws at the end and they basically smush the skull. There, that's much better. There we go. Thank you, sir. Look, it's sort of stuck in his foot there. It looks like a bird. He's picking the feathers off. It's stuck in one of his talons. Oh, you got it unstuck. I can't quite see what bird it is, but it looks like a rather large bird that he's managed to grab. See how he doesn't want the feather bits. He wants to get into the meat. And to get to the meat, he's got to pick the feathers off. Allie, good question. You're asking how big does this eagle get? And I'm just checking in my bird book quickly to give you a correct answer. I would say about 2.5 foot. But I think I might be a little bit over 78 to 86 centimeters. What is that in inches? Yeah, about 2.5 foot is roughly the same. And then the wingspan, no, actually might be a little bit more, 78 to 86. You guys are going to have to Google that. I'm bad with converting math. I'm sorry. And then the wingspan is about 2 meters to 2.5 meters. So that's 2 yards to 2.5 yards. It's a very large wingspan. So if you convert 86 centimeters into inches, I believe it's 2 centimeters to an inch, if I'm remembering correctly. So 200 inches, and then you'll have to do 200 divided by 12. I got you to about there. I didn't study math very well in school, everybody, as you can tell, and I've suffered later in life. But that's okay. I found something that I'm good at where I don't have to do math too much. Look at him. He's got all I think it looks like he's picking at the wings there and then getting the meat off the wing that's closest to the body part. So that would, like if you're going to eat a chicken, this is the wing bone. Duncan, good question. You're asking how much does he eat in a day? So a meal like this will suffice him for about a day, maybe a little bit longer. If they're eating smaller things, they might need to kill a couple of times. And because this eagle's killed its prey right now, sort of later in the evening, he'll go out hunting again probably when it warms up tomorrow morning. So maybe around 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Maybe even a little bit later. We're getting some really good views here, everybody. This is a very special sighting. And the end of his beak has a hook part that helps him get all this meat and feathers off. And you can actually see with his talon, can you see the claw at the end of the talon on the left-hand side there? Look at that claw. We can't really zoom in any more than we have now. Our cameras are brilliant, and Seb is a brilliant cameraman, but we're at about our reach at the moment. Look at the, I mean, you can, his feet, his talons and claws are huge in comparison to his body. So he's filling a very specific niche by having a foot structure like that and the ability to catch larger prey, because other birds of prey will catch a smaller prey species. Now, Mr. James Hendry is still out on bushwalk, so I think let's go over and join him and see what else he has to show us. That might be something small or maybe something big.
We're just trying to get you a view of an elephant on foot, but it's in some very, very thick bush, and so we can't go any closer than we are now. There are a few of them inside this thicket over here. Oh, I can just hear them moving. What we're going to try and do is we'll go a little bit further down this way and see if we can get round them. In front there, you've got Rexon, who's a tracker extraordinaire. He's also an extremely experienced guide, and he is looking after our protection, because of course we're in an area where animals are potentially dangerous. Let's just walk this way a little bit. Alexis, you're worried about father animals eating their children, and will they eat them? Well, distressingly, sometimes, yes, they do. They often kill them. They don't often eat them. And normally it's not the actual father, it's somebody else. So if we look at lions, for example, lions will kill young cubs that are not their own, but they won't eat them. They will normally just kill them and then leave them. But it's very unusual for the father of an animal to eat its own youngsters. Yeah, it's just very thick in there. You can see, you can't see through those bushes there. And the elephants are in there, and we get very, very close if we were to walk in there. Now, Max, you want to know if I get frightened if I get too close to big things like lions and the other big cats? Max, yeah, I do. And, you know, there will be people during your life, Max, that'll tell you you never admit to being frightened. But as soon as you think you're not frightened, or as soon as you are not frightened by something like an elephant or a lion or a leopard, well, that's when you know that you're going to get into trouble, because these animals deserve our respect. And as soon as we take chances with them, then we are really in trouble. So it's good to have just a little bit of fear. I don't think we're going to get a view, I'm afraid. I think we're going to have to leave these fellows and head and see if we can find something else for you. Yeah, while we do that, let's go back to Steve, who's got some big cows.
And you are with us again up in the Masai Mara, or should I say the Mara Triangle, and we have found one of the most dangerous animals to encounter on foot. So James was trying to find an elephant on foot. Elephant on foot and buffalo on foot are very, very dangerous animals. And here we have got the Cape buffalo, and this is a group of boys. Earlier on the show we spent time with a huge herd of buffalo, 250 or so, that had females and babies and bulls. And here we have a group of bulls that spend a bit of time together away from the females, because I think that can be quite difficult spending all your time with all the females. But these guys move away from them for a little while. And the reason why it looks a little bit grey is that we are looking at these buffalo in infrared. The sun has set up in the Mara, and we are looking at them with something that the army or the military would use to see people at night. So we were looking at them with very, very, very cool cameras and lights here that enable us to see these buffalo. If I look at them without the monitor, it's actually just black spots in the distance, but we're able to see the shape and the outline of the buffalo. Some of them are starting to lie down. They've been feeding for hours, and now they're going to sit down at night and chew the cud, as they say, ruminate, and basically vomit their food into their mouth and chew it and swallow it again. Doesn't that sound wonderful? But the Cape buffalo, one of the awesome animals people come and see in the savannas of Africa, and they are really quite funny. You see all the insects around in the light, and the buffalo are throwing their heads all over the place because there's lots of insects. And here they come. They are coming towards us. Isaac, what animals will get scared and run away? A lot of animals, when they first see vehicles, will run away. But in a place like this area and the Kruger National Park, they see vehicles quite a lot. So they get quite used to it. But if I got out of the car and walked towards these buffalo, they might get scared and run away because they see me as the very early human in Africa who hunted them with spears and bows and poison and whatever it was. So they are very fearful of people, but they don't see us in the car. They see this big box over here, so they don't really run away from us. But if I drove too close, they'd probably move away a bit, but they don't get scared of the car, if that answers your question. But can you see all the insects in the infrared there? The buffalo are not liking them. There's lots of biting insects, biting flies, there's mosquitoes. And if I just keep quiet for a moment, see if you can hear the echolocation of the bats. I can hear some bubbling casino frogs in the background and some crickets. And I heard the bats before, but they've now been overshadowed by all the other nocturnal animals that are coming out, and we're going to go all the way back down south to Tristan, and we're going to be heading on back to our abode for dinner, and we're going to be going all the way back down to Tristan, who I believe has got an update for you.
Well, yes, hello everybody. You haven't met me yet. As Steve mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Viam the wildebeest, and you haven't seen me because, well, we've been trying to find you a leopard, but unfortunately our leopards decided to go in a very thick area, and well, we couldn't see them anymore. We did see 3 of them this afternoon, really early in the afternoon, but they went away, and unfortunately we couldn't find them again. So that's a bit disappointing, but you never know what's around the next corner. So we're in an area that hasn't really been driven very much recently, and I'm trying to find a leopard up this side of the world for you guys. So I just want to see, there's something seems to be in a tree over there, but it looks like maybe just a branch. Togozi, wondering how does a lioness, which lioness, choose to leave a pride? So that was what I thought I saw in the tree, is just a dangling piece of bark, unfortunately. But lioness don't actually choose to leave a pride unless the pride is too big and they can't find enough food. Then you'll find if there's not enough food around, then the pride will split, and you'll find some females will go off and other females go on their separate areas. If there is enough food, then the females will always stay part of the pride. It's only the males that will be kicked out when dad realizes that these boys are getting too big. He's going to say, that's it, enough of you, you need to go out now, and you need to go and find your own territory. So it's only really the boys that get chased away. Sometimes what will happen is if there are quite a few boys and girls that were born in the same litter, then you'll find a situation when dad chases the boys, sometimes the girls will follow those young males and they'll go with them and try and see where they go. And then either they form their own pride, or sometimes they'll even come back to their mom and then rejoin the pride again. But most of the time females will stay within the pride. It just makes it much stronger, and it allows them to hunt lots of big animals like the buffalo that you saw with Steve, if they stay together and form a nice big unit. Right, so my thing hanging in the tree was just bark, unfortunately. I was hoping it was going to be something else, but we'll carry on. Raina, you're wondering if I get scared when we get close to hyenas and lions. Well, Raina, sometimes I get very scared and I actually have to just try and sit and tell myself everything will be okay. No, I'm just joking. Raina, no, I don't really, and I'll tell you why. It's because in this car that we have here, the lions and the hyenas don't see this as something that's going to hurt them. It's something that doesn't take away their food, and they're not taught to hunt us by their mothers. And so most of them see us as just a kind of object that moves around, and they really don't fear us in any way, but they also don't think of us as something that they can eat. And so they actually leave us alone. And so we can have hyenas and lions quite close by, and they don't worry about us at all. So I don't get too scared about them. When you're on foot and you're walking around like James, that's a little bit different. Then you have to be a little bit careful with lions. Hyenas not so much, because hyenas, when they see you walking around, normally they'll walk away from you. They don't come and hunt you. Whereas lions, they can be a little bit more scary. And sometimes if they've got a carcass, so if they've got food, or if they've got cubs, then they can be very, very aggressive. And they can sometimes then charge at you, and they show their teeth and their claws and their tail whips all over the place. And you've got to be very careful then not to do the wrong thing, because if you run away, well, then you might get eaten by those lions. So that makes you a little bit scared sometimes, or a bit nervous, but otherwise on the vehicle, no. Ooh, Kenzie, you want to know what the most dangerous animal is that I have seen? Well, Kenzie, unfortunately, it makes me sad to say this, but the most dangerous animal I've ever seen are humans. And you might be thinking, why would I say other people are dangerous? Well, to the animals out here, humans are probably the most destructive things. We've destroyed lots of the environment. We've hunted animals, we've poached animals, we've taken animals out of their natural habitats and put them in zoos and all kinds of other things. And so, unfortunately, humans are the most dangerous of all the animals. But in terms of being out here and trying to drive around and walk around and try to kind of watch what's going on, probably the two most dangerous are elephant and buffalo. Both of those you have to be very careful of. They're both very, very strong animals, and an elephant can easily throw this car around and turn it over and use its tusk to try and gore and try and maim the car. So, you know, you've got to be a bit careful with them. And then buffalo, they're just grumpy all the time, so you've got to be a bit nervous of them. But like I say, the most sort of dangerous thing is actually humans more than anything else. Right. Now I'm going to carry on my road in the hope that I'm going to find you a spotted cat, and while I do that, let's send you back to Noel, who's got a beautiful view of the setting sun.
We do have a very beautiful view. It is sunset for us here. So where Steve is in Kenya, the sun has already set. He is just at the equator, just a bit north of the equator. We're still farther south of the equator. So we have about an hour's difference between our sunrises and sunsets, roughly, give or take a little bit of time. Now the cloud cover that's building there towards what would be mountains if we could see all that way, but unfortunately we can't see them, are rain clouds. Those are cumulonimbus clouds, and that's where you get a lot of rain from, but also it's where thunder and lightning comes from. When they build and build and build, you get quite a lot of friction inside, and that's where the sounds and that lightning comes down. Now, Tristan was talking a little bit about the environment and our effect on the environment. There are some places where they put special airplanes up in the air and then put special seed into the clouds to create rain. But when that happens, it then destroys rain in other parts of the world. It has a knock-on effect, or a butterfly effect, as it were. So the whole idea behind the butterfly effect is that when a butterfly beats its wings here in South Africa, it can affect different aspects in China, let's say, for argument's sake. Now, we need rain quite badly. It is our rainy season right now. It is our summertime, and this is when we get rain. Steve was talking about rain in Kenya. Their rainy seasons are a little bit different because of their proximity to the equator. They get big rains and little rains. We get summer rains, and then our winters are very dry. Unless you're on the western side of the country, which is in Cape Town, then they get winter rains and then dry summers. And we've been going through a bit of a dry spell at the moment. It looks nice and green, but we're short some few feet of rain. We need quite a lot more for this season. Now, I think we usually do a little moment of silence for drive. So I think everybody, let's do our moment of silence for a little while with this beautiful, beautiful sunset, or what's left of it. Listen to the birds. How nice is that? The wind through the trees, the birds calling in the background. We've got our dusk chorus starting where all the birds are saying, good night, this is my territory. And then we'll get dawn chorus in about 12 hours. Now, Jaden, you were asking me, what is my favorite animal? Now, Jaden, my favorite animal to see on Game Drive is an African wild dog. This is the African wild dog here. We didn't get to see any on Game Drive this afternoon. They're a highly endangered species. There's only about 3,500 of them left on the entire continent of Africa, and they only occur in Africa. It's also known as an African painted wolf. They're extremely good hunters, and they're very good parents, and they work in a system where the whole pack takes care of each other. Every coat pattern is unique to the individual, and the reason why their numbers are so low has to do with humans, like what Tristan was talking about. We've taken away a lot of their space and also brought in a lot of domesticated animals, and a wild dog doesn't care if it eats a wildebeest like we saw earlier or if it eats a cow or a goat, and so they've been persecuted for many, many, many years. And their numbers hopefully are on the increase rather than the decrease, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now, we don't have too much time left, so if you have any more questions, please send them through. Ooh, Liliana, good question. You're asking about another predator, a leopard. You would like to know, how old do leopards get? A female in the wild can be about 18 years old, sometimes pushing to 20, but around 18. And males usually top off between 12 and 15 years. So the male leopard that Tristan was looking at earlier is between 10 and 12 years old, and the female that he was seeing earlier is about 11 years old. And the little cub he was seeing is about 3 months old. It's about the size of a mini soccer ball, a mini football. And so they can live for quite a while, but there are other predators to worry about. Lions and leopards don't like each other. Cheetahs and lions and leopards don't like each other. Spotted hyenas and all the predators don't like each other. Same with the wild dog. So it's a very tough life. Sometimes we don't get to live as long as they would like to, but fortunately, Tingana and Tandi have been doing very well in their lives. All right, kids, thank you so much for this evening. Really hope that you enjoyed. We're going to have a nice little look at the rest of our sunset. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, or tonight for you all, 10 p.m. Eastern is our 4th installment of our live TV show on Nat Geo Wild. So please join us 10 p.m. Eastern for that. We will also be having Safari Bingo. Don't forget. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening.